I hope you're comfy in your sleeping bag and ready for some spooky campfire tales. Wrap up warm, take a sip of your hot cocoa, and help yourself to any of the toasted s'mores as we share some short spooky tales. I'll make sure to keep the fire going. The first story is called The Cabin. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The sky was already getting dark, and he needed to get back fast. What was odd was how much he didn't recognize the trail back. He began to panic. Night had already taken over, and all he had was a flashlight and no clue on how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night, when, luckily enough, he stumbled across a broken-down cabin. It was dark and seemed like no one had visited it in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in, where, strangely enough, a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the center. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was even probably dead, so he went ahead and got himself comfortable in bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room, portraits of strange-looking people, all peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces. The next morning, he got up early and was shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room, but windows. This next one is called Home Alone. I was working overtime on my computer one evening. My desk sat in front of a large picture window that looked out into our backyard. This particular evening, there was no moon and the yard was very dark. It was already several hours past quitting time, and my eyes were starting to get tired from staring at my computer screen. I rubbed my eyes and glanced past my screen and out the window into the yard. My heart froze as I saw the figure of a man standing there, directly in front of me, not 10 yards away. Panicked, I grabbed my phone and looked down to dial 911. It rang a few times while I waited, heart pounding, until finally someone answered. 911, what's your emergency? Yes, there's a man. I began to answer, but the words died in my throat as I looked up again. He was closer, much closer, only feet away. I could see him more clearly now, empty, fixed eyes staring at me, a humorless smile twisting his lips. I couldn't help it. I screamed in shock, bursting to my feet as I prepared to run, but I froze just there, staring out the window in confusion as his image was replaced by my own reflection. It took only a moment for that confusion to be replaced by true terror as the realization set in. The man wasn't outside. This next one is known as Not Dear Dear. I lived in Waynesboro, VA for about 5 years, less than 10 minutes to the BRP North entrance, Skyline Drive South entrance. I used to take bike rides along SD all the time and always kept a year-long membership, only in the day though, just to frame the story. One night, I was having a particularly hard time settling in for bed, so I decided to start up the bike and ride up to the first overlook on Skyline, only about a mile inside the park. It was about 11 p.m. when I got up there, and pitch black. I killed the bike and got immediately uncomfortable. I'm not a guy that gets spooked in the dark. Truthfully, I prefer the dark in most situations. You can see people before they see you. You are practically mine invisible unless someone is looking for you, and I find the natural privacy comforting. Not up there, though. It was a thick, oppressive dark, worse than anything I experienced outside of a cave, and worse than any moonless night on the Appalachian Trail. I immediately got hinked out, big time. There's nothing up here besides wildlife. I reassured myself, internally. I had my .44 mag revolver from when I hiked in the Pacific NW Bear Country and all that jazz, tucked into my CCW holster. So I knew I definitely outmatched anything that could be up there, two-legged snakes included. So I sat in the dark, leaning against the bike for a while, and looking at the few lights I could see in the valley below. I managed about 10 minutes before I physically felt the hair raise on the back of my neck. I only did 27 months in Iraq, but I remembered that precise feeling. Someone was watching me. Something bad was coming. It was the same sensation I would get before IDF came in, or the shooting started somewhere nearby. I'm no psychic or whatever, but it's a common thing among vets with any time under their belt. Ask them about it. You can feel hateful eyes on you. The overlook was a sheer drop, or nearly so I wasn't concerned about anything popping up in that direction, but the mountainside and thick, untamed woods were behind me. I started thinking about methed out dudes creeping the Appalachian Trail, bears, and the like. The AT is no stranger to random violence. Still feeling creeped out, I took up a seat on the waist-high stone wall that marked the overlook ledge, facing the woods. Again, I can't emphasize how dark it was, but Grease, you might say. Why not turn on the bike and use the lights? It'll at least help you see what's close. True, but my bike is loud, and the last thing I wanted was attention. Plus, the light would just night blind me to anything just out of view, and the noise would obscure any stealthy sounding creeping going on. So no thanks. I'll watch and listen for a bit. I sat in the dark for another 10 minutes or so, anxiety getting worse and worse. I heard a few things, but nothing out of the ordinary for a night in the woods. I decided to head on home, since the feeling wasn't going away. Like I said, I had a big bore on me, so anything playing games would be in for a powerful surprise if the games got stupid. Hopping onto my Suzuki, I started it up and rode off towards the gate. Now, anyone who lives in the country and rides a bike knows that wildlife is crazy active on roads that aren't traveled often at night. Being nighttime and technically closed, I had to ride around a gate to get in. There were no other vehicles on the road at all. I hadn't seen a single other person since leaving Waynesboro proper. The speed limit was 30 miles per hour, but I clipped along at a measly 15 to keep an eye out for deer and wildlife. It wouldn't do me any good to fuck myself up in a wreck, only to lay there all night until someone happened to cross me in the morning. Then I saw it. The term of almost deer is really fitting. Not but quite accurate. It was like a deer that someone who had never seen a deer drew, but only after someone else described it to them. It stood on the left side of the road, mountainside, and I saw the eyes long before my headlight shone it fully. It was big, easily the biggest deer I've seen, and the lack of any horns that time in the year suggested that it was a doe. The head was almost bovine in shape, but fixed to a deer's frame. The legs seemed too long in proportion to the body, think maned wolf proportions, and the body was extremely barrel-chested. I've always been creeped out by malformed wildlife, and this was no exception. Unfortunately, I had to get it to move, or risk passing within a few feet of it. I was not traveling another 30+ miles up the road in the other direction to leave through another gate in the middle of the night, and I wasn't getting close to it. Dangers of it spooking and running into the side of my cruiser aside, I didn't want to get near it at all. Stopping and putting my feet down about 30 away from it, I tried to frighten it away. I flashed my beams down to low and back to high. Nothing. I revved the engine. Nothing. I honked the considerable horn. Nada. Resting the bike on the kickstand, I left it idling and hopped off. I yelled at the thing and it still didn't budge, so I started to the side of the road to grab something to toss near the deer thing, hoping to spook it that way. As soon as I crossed into the other lane, it rose up onto its hind legs. I froze, putting my hand on my gun. I wasn't about to get charged by an angry, confused, malformed doe. It took 2 jerky, unnatural steps towards the center of the lane on 2 legs, and froze again, staring directly at me. It suddenly shook its head wildly like a dog with a toy, took another short step, then hopped on 2 legs several times until it disappeared into the darkness on the right side of the road. I stepped back to the bike, mounted it, kicked up the kickstand, and turned the light towards the side of the road. On that side, there was a sheer drop-off about 75-80 degrees compared to the roadway, and the fucking thing's head was just peeking over the edge, still looking at me. The drop-off was about 40 to 50, so there's no way it was standing at the base of the mountainside. I cracked the throttle and beat the hell out of there. Road wildlife be damned. I never went back up on Skyline Drive at night alone. After that, one time was enough. There are things we don't grok out there, or things that just visit for a while. Whatever it wasn't from around these here parts. In Hill Talk. It can go back to wherever it came from and stay there. Next is a classic known as The Vanishing Hitchhiker. Tom had just left a party and was driving down a dark road all by himself. It was about 12:30 at night and pouring down rain. He had only driven about 2 miles when he saw this faint figure walking on the side of the road. As he got closer, he realized it was a young lady and she was wearing a long white dress. He pulled over and asked her if she would like a ride. She said she would. He noticed she was shivering from the rain, so he took off his jacket and offered it to her. She draped the jacket over her shoulders, and they started to talk about nothing in particular. When Tom pulled up to her house, he turned to her to ask her something, but she was gone. Puzzled, he thought maybe she had already ran into her house. The following day, Tom realized the girl had left in such a rush that she forgot to give him back his jacket. He remembered where her house was and drove there since he did not have a phone number to call. He knocked on the door and an older woman answered. Tom told her he was there to pick up his jacket that her daughter had from the night before. The woman looked at him strangely and told him he must have the wrong house. The man was sure this was the right place. He dropped off the girl, so he began to describe her and what she was wearing. The old lady was shaken and began to cry. She explained that her only daughter died 10 years ago on prom night and that the man had described her exactly. She said her daughter was buried up the road at Meadowwood Cemetery. After Tom left the old lady's house, he decided to go find the girl's grave. There, laying on her headstone, was his jacket. Lastly, we have the 13th floor delivery, which is sure to deliver you a slice of terror. Jake, a diligent food delivery rider, got an order for a pizza late one night. The address directed him to a flat on the 13th floor of an old apartment building. Upon arriving, he discovered that the button for the 13th floor in the lift was malfunctioning. He sighed, pressed the button for the 14th floor instead, and figured it would be easier to walk down one flight of stairs. When he reached the 14th floor and took the stairs to the 13th, an eerie feeling crept over him. The entire floor was shrouded in darkness, with not a single light flickering on. Goosebumps prickled his skin as he cautiously descended the steps, his heart pounding in his chest. Jake fumbled with his phone, using its dim light to search for the right flat number. The darkness seemed to swallow the light, making everything appear more sinister. He dialed the customer's number, and the ringing of the phone echoed eerily through the empty hallway. The call was answered by a voice that sounded inhumanly deep and heavy. "Put the pizza down where you are and leave," the voice commanded. "I have paid up front." Jake's pulse quickened as the door to the flat creaked open. A shadowy figure emerged, darker than the surrounding gloom. He felt a wave of terror wash over him as he saw the figure, its presence suffocating and menacing. Without another thought, he placed the pizza on the ground, his hands trembling. He felt the urge to leave a tip and hurriedly placed some coins beside the box. Without looking back, Jake sprinted down the hallway, his breath coming in ragged gasps. As he exited the building, he saw the night security guard patrolling near the gate. Desperate for some explanation, Jake stopped him and asked, "Why is the 13th floor so dark? It felt like no one lives there." The security guard gave him a puzzled look. "No one does. That floor has been abandoned for years. No one orders food from there." Jake's blood ran cold. He turned back to the building, his mind racing with the implications of what had just happened. The pizza delivery was a task he would never forget, one that left him questioning the boundary between the living and the dead. Are you still with me? I hope you enjoyed these spooky stories, and please don't be frightened. They are just old folks' tales. Good night, and I hope you have a peaceful sleep. The fire should stay going through the night.